Welcome into the Birds of the Roundtable, the free agency reaction show. I just learned from the title of our stream that the Eagles got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back. I've been doing dinner with the family, finally stepped away from Twitter. Curse you, Eagles, for announcing that signing at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday. But here we are. We get to react to it live. I am your host, Shane Heff. You can give me a follow on Twitter at Shane Heff NFL. Joined as always by Dives. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Dives, how are you doing this morning or this evening?
I'm doing better now, man. Not gonna lie, I was kind of down in the dumps today, hoping for some news. Watching linebacker after linebacker after linebacker go off the board, but here we are. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is back. I can't wait to talk about it.
All right, we'll dive into it. Also joined here by Ryan. Give him a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing so good. Honestly, Jive said it perfectly. It was kind of a blah day. We were like, man, nothing's happening. This is typical Howie. Like, usually takes a day off. And no, he was working some safety help, and we'll see if there's any more additions throughout the night.
All right, well, let's dive into it. And I guess we can start with the new news here, guys. And that is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson signed to a 3-year, $33 million deal. It seemed like last year both sides wanted this to work out. I think the Eagles made a reasonable offer to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. And I mean, it seems like he got some bad advice from an agent that thought he was going to get a lot more on the open market than he did. And by the time it was found out that that wasn't the case, the Eagles, unfortunately, had already spent money on James Bradbury to bring him back. So bad there that's how that played out. But it's nice to see, I think it works out here like both sides kind of wanted it to last year. It's kind of a weird situation. But Ryan, what do you make of this signing? What's your initial reaction?
I absolutely love it. We said early in this offseason we need to get young. We need to add speed, and Chauncey Gardner absolutely does that. He's young. I'm okay with paying him, 11 per. Considering McKinney went for 17-ish, that's kind of a steal in my book. And honestly, I don't think they're done adding to the safety position, as Gardner can play everywhere. You just throw him out on that field. And considering they have 0 linebackers, we're probably going to be playing 6 or 7 DBs anyway, so might as well. I love it. I absolutely love it. He was one of my probably my second choice after McKinney as far as what safety to bring in. All
right. Dibes, what do you think? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back, what does that do for you? How does that move the needle for you?
It does. I mean, it is a massive move. I mean, you look at the importance of the safety position for Vic Fangio. Like, listen, I love Reed Blankenship, but he's a third guy. He should be coming off the bench. The Eagles should very much be all in on Justin Simmons. CJ Gardner-Johnson's a guy, a physical slot defender, something in an area that has been an Achilles heel for this Philadelphia Eagles team for quite some time. And you look at last year, man, 2023, I know that the pass rush wasn't there, but my goodness, -10 in turnover differential. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson had 6 interceptions in 2022. Last year, he was fighting injury, but he did make an impact when he was out on the field. So for me, I'm just happy, man. I'm happy that the Eagles are getting multiple guys who can fit multiple roles in multiple schemes to this defense. And that's what CJ Gardner-Johnson can do, depending on the matchup, depending on the situation. I think this is an excellent solution for Vic Fangio to improve this Eagles defense in 2024. And I'm honestly just happy that Howie kind of swallowed his pride. CJ Gardner-Johnson swallowed his pride. There were some words thrown out there, and we move on. Let's go, guys. This is a great sign.
Yeah, so Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, what was his injury? I don't remember, but I remember he missed most of season? Was it
8 games?
It was a torn pectoral muscle.
Okay, it was a pectoral. So he basically played in week 1 and 2, and then he came back in week 18 last year. So, you could say maybe Philadelphia was just always his home, but he just knew he was going to get hurt this year. So he's like, hey, I'll go steal some money from Detroit. I'll be back next year. And, we move forward with it. But I think it's a good signing. I only say I tweeted this. It's only partially tongue in cheek. I'm excited, and now I want the Eagles to go sign a safety. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson played safety for the Eagles in 2022. Sort of. He was in the box on 200 snaps. He was in the slot 200 snaps, and he was deep safety on like 400 snaps. And I think that, in an ideal world, if you can primarily use him in the slot and in the box, that's what's best. He tried to make the jump to free safety with the Eagles, and I think people were generally higher on him than they probably should have been off of his play in 2022. Super Bowl year, the interceptions, a lot of those interceptions I don't think were necessarily like good plays that he made so much as the ball coming right to him. But regardless, I think it's a good deal at 3 years, $33 million. We've seen what safeties are going for. I think, Xavier McKinney is obviously a better player, but getting Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back, he's 26. So he's young. He's going to be on this roster for the next couple of years. I think that's a big win for the Eagles, who I was kind of disappointed that their initial surge didn't include safety or linebacker and instead was targeted at some other guys we'll talk about here in a minute. So I'm excited by this. I haven't fully processed because, like I said, I realized that they got him right when we came online. So thanks for their Dibes. I would have had no idea.
Let's get some comments real quick. Michael says Howie right now, executive of the year. Let's pump the brakes on that. Just let's see how this plays out. The Eagles are still looking to add a linebacker by trade if need be. That's an interesting comment. I've not seen that. CJ Gardner-Johnson is the identity the Eagles did not have last year. I mean, this guy's a dog. He's a dog, and the Eagles need a lot more of him. I love it. Luffy is in the house. What's going on, man? Thanks for joining. Saying Devin White and trade.
You do not want Devin White playing linebacker on this football team.
Why is that?
He's fast and he's not a very good football player. He would at least be fast while not covering anybody as opposed to slow while not covering anybody. But I don't think people want Devin White.
The one that pissed me off was Willie Gay Jr.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, Shane? Because for $5 million for peanuts, come on, Howie. I mean, he's a great athlete. Rudy Poo says CJ Gardner-Johnson's our nickel corner. Agreed. Go Birds. Eagles still need another safety and linebacker. Absolutely. Isaiah Rodgers is our nickel. Any thoughts on that?
No, Isaiah Rodgers. I've heard a lot of people saying that, and I don't know why people are saying that because Isaiah Rodgers is not really played in the nickel. I can pull his snap counts, but
he's an outside.
He's traditionally been an outside corner, so I'm not sure why people are really hung up on like he's going to be a slot. I mean, he's smaller. He's 5'10", so maybe that's part of it. But if you go back and look over the last from 2020 to 2022, he played a total of 31 snaps in the slot. So he's an outside guy. He's smaller, and so maybe you make that projection he could jump inside, but he hasn't played there really.
Jeremy Chin next. Any thoughts on Jeremy Chin?
He signed with Washington.
He's a Commander, so he stinks now.
Yes.
Now, I love me some Jeremy Chin, but he signed it was like $5 million a year to the Commanders.
Yeah. Baker didn't get signed by anybody, did he? Jerome Baker?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, somebody said in the chat that he did. I had not seen that because honestly, outside of him and Devin White, those are really the two premier kind of linebackers left. And we know that Jerome Baker can fit with what Vic Fangio wants to do. So I think that's really the only answer for a significant linebacker upgrade that's on the free agent market right now.
Eagles fan says, bring in another safety, hopefully Simmons. I am right there with you, man. We don't even know if Rodgers is making the team, says Rudy Poo. McKinney wasn't worth $17 million. Howie right now is like, acknowledge me. Will the Eagles bring back Zach Cunningham? Any thoughts on Zach Cunningham?
I'd bring him back. I mean, I wouldn't want him to be a starter, but I'd bring him back on another $2 million deal.
I mean, yeah, I'd do that.
Ryan says, Devin White, please. Howie is the best GM. Howie is that man. Guys, the comments are going crazy right now. Eagles definitely making some noise.
So have you guys, just to kind of go on the subject here, have you heard the report that multiple NFL insiders have been reporting that the Eagles are actually in on Justin Fields as a backup?
I
have heard that, yes.
Then
again, I didn't believe the Saquon news either. So.
Right, and listen, and I think the first person was Matt Lombardi, who, you know, that guy is, you know, absolute one of the worst. I absolutely hate that dude. But more people have been coming out, and you know, again, when there's some smoke, there might be some fire. So
yeah,
I don't know what you'd give up to or why necessarily, but we all know that Philadelphia does love their backup quarterback. So.
Yep. Dan.
Yeah, I would love for Justin Fields to be the Eagles' backup quarterback. Now, I don't think it would cost a lot to get him at this point. When you see Sam Darnold sign a $10 million a year contract, which is just insane. You see what some of the trade market has been so far. So I think you could probably get Fields much more cheaply than the Bears were thinking they could trade him for. But ultimately it comes down to the issue being he's only got 1 year left on his rookie deal. So it would be a 1 year move. And so if for just 1 year, I wouldn't want to give even a third really at that point. So it's going to be, it'd be dicey for that to work out, but I would love Justin Fields in Philadelphia backing up Hurts.
Todd asks, is Bradbury still on this team's plan going forward?
I would assume yes. Well, I would assume yes. I mean, why wouldn't you have made the move to cut him and designate him, you know, post June if that was the case?
Well, you're already gonna have Fletcher Cox as a post June.
Right, you get two a year, right?
Yeah, I'd have to look at Kelsey's contract might have been structured that same way. I'm not sure, but I almost wonder if they will just keep him. The difference in like post June 1st cutting Bradbury this year and pre June 1st cutting him next year is like paying him $150,000 this year. So I could see them leaving him on if they get rid of him, it's for the roster spot, not for cap reasons. So I could see them keeping him, but I don't think he's like in their plans to be a significant player.
Hopefully.
Dan says, do we trade Sweat and a third for a linebacker? Seems like Josh Sweat is on the move here. Simmons has not signed with anybody, at least from my knowledge. Nope. So keep us updated, guys, in the comments. Todd says, Howie season in full effect. I'm hyped, but now I know we are drafting a guard in the first round. We talked about that last night on Party on Broad. I totally have that vibe too. Like that's if you're gonna what's that?
I'm okay with it. I'm more than okay. Yeah, like and then listen, it was second round. You got to get. I mean, for the love of God, one of those has to be a linebacker since we're obviously not planning on signing anybody. But like, you got to get two other impactful players. But I'm good. Get JPJ. Have him be the right guard for the next 10 years, and have that line pretty much set for the next 10 years. You know, you just figure out what you're going to do with Lane. Yeah.
Joey's in the house. What's going on, man? Do you guys see Hennessy as a starter at the guard or depth?
Depth.
I think he's depth. So I really like the Matt Hennessy signing. To my knowledge, the contract details haven't come out yet. It's just 1 year, unknown amount. the agents are the ones that leak these deals. So if you don't get the amount, it's because the agent doesn't want that broadcast. So it's going to be a small deal. He is only 26 years old. I liked Matt Hennessy coming out of college. Missed all of this season with a knee injury, but he's got 1,100 career snaps at center. He's played a little bit at left guard, but not much. Never played right guard. I think it's purely an insurance policy on Cam Jurgens. Like, Cam Jurgens has only snapped the ball 43 times at the NFL level. And you cannot walk into a season in which you think you might compete for a Super Bowl and your only center have only snapped a ball 43 times. So I think it's that. Like, if Cam Jurgens is a catastrophe, you can move him back to right guard. If Cam Jurgens gets hurt, now you don't have to move Landon Dickerson, the guy you just paid $21 million to play left guard, to center. Like, you just, there's uncertainty around center with Jason Kelce gone, and Matt Hennessy's just a way to raise that floor. So I really like that. I don't think he's pushing for a starting job, though.
I just want to throw out that I loved watching him play at Temple. That was during my prime. Those were some epic years, man, battling Penn State, the Sackenberg years. Those were some fun days, man. I love seeing Matt Hennessy come home. I was really happy about that signing.
Yeah, that's always great. I will say, listen, if we go that route, we get a JPJ in the first round, and that pushes Steen back to again a depth role where he can play guard or tackle on the right side. You have Hennessy that can play center or left guard. You right there already have two versatile backups that are worthy of potential starting minutes, but are in reserve roles. And that's a typical Eagles MO. Mm-hmm. So the more I'm literally talking about it now, the more I'm more convinced that if JPJ is there, that's the selection.
I mean, it's again, you're just trying to get adequate on defense. You're borderline elite on offense with a JPJ, with Saquon. We'll get into Javonte Parker in a little bit. I don't know.
Javonte Parker.
Devontae, whatever his name is, it doesn't matter.
It's not important.
You can always tell when Dives doesn't care about somebody when he doesn't.
I really don't.
Last night he was calling Zach Bond Lloyd Braun.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was calling him Ricky Vaughn.
Ricky Vaughn, that's right. Forgot about that one too. Oh God.
No big deal either way. Well, let's get into, you mentioned him. Let's talk about Saquon Barkley. So the Eagles signed Saquon Barkley to a 3-year deal, and you guys keep the comments rolling. We'll get back to the comments here, but Saquon, 3 years, $37.75 million. That's $12.6 million average annual value. Somebody tried to old takes expose me because that morning I had quote tweeted one of the reports and said that I will believe that Howie Roseman is offering a running back over $10 million a year when I see it. And somebody tried to old takes expose me, and I was like, listen, I didn't say it was impossible. I just said I'd believe it when I saw it. I saw it. I believe it. But this one, my jaw hit the floor. I really didn't buy the smoke with all of that. Dives, what do you think about this? How excited are you for Saquon? Do you think this was the right move? Talk to me about Saquon.
I love it, man. I didn't. 0% of my body believed the rumors. I thought it was all a smokescreen. I was on Ryan's show. I was on everybody's show. I was like, there's no way Howie's just going to shift his philosophy and all of a sudden give a running back $10+ million. But here we are, man. Saquon is that every down back they have been wanting for quite some time. I mean, he's a third down back. When's the last time the Eagles have had a third down back? Man, this guy had 4 touchdowns on third down last year, 2 rushing and 2 receiving, tied for Kyron Williams for tops among running backs last year. Only 3 other running backs have had more third down touches than Barkley since 2022. And what's really funny about that, this is from The Athletic, that the 2 running backs who had more third down touches than Barkley since 2022 were Austin Eckler and Ezekiel Elliott. And both of those guys were coached by Kellen Moore. And both of those guys logged 50 catch seasons with at least 400 yards in those seasons. Saquon's going to bring back the explosive element. Only 2 running backs have recorded more plays of 20-plus yards than Saquon Barkley. Neither DeAndre Swift or Kenny Gainwell last year recorded a single reception of 20 yards or more in 2023. And Barkley's a great pass protector. The storyline of 2023 for Jalen Hurts was blitz, pickup, and getting Jalen Hurts reading the blitz again with a guy like Saquon Barkley who gives up very minimal sacks, great pass protector. How do you not love this move?
Ryan, how do you not love this move?
Well, I do love this move. This was the move that Eagles fans didn't see coming, and I absolutely love it. I'll put this up here for my boy Seamus here. He says, I think Kellen Moore has something to do with it. Well, apparently that is absolutely correct. Kellen Moore specifically wanted him due to his scheme fit. And listen, I get it. Everybody's kind of freaking out over the money. We've never spent this kind of money on a running back. And I know a lot of people have DeMarco Murray in their brain. And listen, that's not what this is. Saquon Barkley is that guy. He will come in every single down. He can block, he can catch, and he can run. And he was literally running behind the 31st offensive line when it comes to run win rate. And now he's going up. Now, granted, a little different than last year, but still, we were number 1 last year. I mean, how do you not love the fact that he was able to do what he was able to do with that crap offensive line? Now he comes to the best offensive line in football. Boom. He is going to run wild. Now, the only problem is, do we give him the ball? I don't know.
One of my favorite tweets when everyone, myself included, was freaking out about Saquon Barkley. Maybe I'll find it. But it was essentially Saquon Barkley carries the Eagles offense down to like the 20-yard line, just moving the chains, and then in comes Kenny Gainwell, third and short.
Oh, you know what's gonna happen. I think a lot of times we can use this back as a pass catcher. Like, I think that gets overstated sometimes. I mean, you look, even last year, Saquon had 280 receiving yards. And DeAndre Swift had 214. So they're not that far apart there. But the difference is, especially with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, it's not about having a check down, because Jalen Hurts is his own check down, right? He's not going to very often get the ball to a running back just past the line of scrimmage. He's going to roll out and try to extend plays. But Saquon's not just a check down guy. He's a guy that runs routes down the field. Last year, he was second in the league among running backs in average depth of target at 2.1 yards. For comparison, DeAndre Swift's average depth of target was 0.6 yards, 2.1 to 0.6. That's a huge difference. He was also third in the NFL among running backs in target percentage out of the slot, behind Christian McCaffrey, and I think it was James Cook. Anyways, so you can put him in the slot and use him as a weapon. You can run him on routes downfield. That's the passing game aspect. And, of course, his pass blocking. He was the 7th highest graded pass blocker by PFF among running backs. So there's that part. And you can look at his volume stats and stuff, and they're not good. But you have to remember that he was dealing with a bottom 5 offensive line, a bottom 3 quarterback situation, and a bottom 5 to 6 wide receiver room. He was the offense. And that's not going to be the case in Philadelphia. But if you look at the advanced stats, look, yards after contact per attempt, he had 2.91, while Swift averaged 2.44. If you look at next gen stats, rushing yards over expectation, Saquon was at positive 0.39. Swift was at negative 0.29.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge difference again. Like, I saw people saying, he's not that much of an upgrade over Swift. He is a sizable upgrade over DeAndre Swift purely as a runner. And then you also take into account that you no longer have to tip your hand and take your running back off the field on a passing down like you did with Swift. And so we can talk value. I'm just not going to worry about that much because Howie can manage the cap. And it's not like Howie's vice is going out and overpaying running backs. If he brought Fletcher Cox back on a $15 million a year deal, we'd be talking about that as a negative because his vice is paying older players to come back one more time. He broke the mold here. There's a reason for it. There's a plan for it. And we could debate the value, but the bottom line is Saquon makes the Eagles offense a lot more exciting and a lot more versatile next year.
For an offense that was straight up predictable, bland, boring, man, it's good stuff. We have a comment here. Barkley won't be running on that turf at MetLife. We talked about that last night. Huge underrated storyline there. He is CMC light. What a time.
I wouldn't go that far. Very light, maybe.
What a time to be an Eagles fan. Please, coverage and pass defense, guys. One move in that regard isn't enough. Need to make 3 moves. Yeah, I mean, they'd still have a lot of work.
Yeah. The free agency technically hasn't even started yet, guys. Like, we're just, the dust is just settling right now. Tomorrow, 4:00, everything gets official, pen to paper, yada, yada, yada. There will always be 1 or 2 that don't end up going where they were, said they were going. So again, that's kind of the drama that we're going to deal with tomorrow. And you never know. Again, this whole Justin Simmons news of, the Eagles may still be involved in it is certainly there. But they've obviously made the decision right now. And, Barkley is a 100% a change of philosophy. And to me, that tells me we're wanting to go out there and throw up 50 points. We may give up 45, but that's how we're planning on winning games. I mean, listen, if that's the case, that's the case. But I don't think they're going to be putting a lot more investment into the defense. I mean, I literally just heard a report that if they can't trade Sweat, they might cut him. Like, they're perfectly fine with the defense being whatever it is, as long as the offense is humming along.
Yep. And if you think about the offense is pretty much complete, right? I mean, there's things you would like to have a better wide receiver 3. You would like to have a better wide receiver 2. You'd like to have a right guard, but like, you look at the offense, there's not a lot of offenses out there that can compete on paper with what the Eagles have. And so I think at this point, you do switch that focus to the defense. And that's what you're going to have to figure out now. And so let's go to the big move the Eagles made on the defense, and it was signing edge rusher Bryce Huff away from the New York Jets. This was a 3-year, $51.1 million deal. It's just over $17 million average annual value. Now, Huff thrived as a situational pass rusher last season, right? But you don't pay a guy $17 million to be situational. He has to play a lot more snaps. He played 481 snaps in 2023, which is a career high. And when people talk about like Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat played too many snaps, they were in the 800s. They almost doubled him up. And so this guy is going to have to be on the field a lot more. His efficiency numbers are great, right? He had 10 sacks and 67 pressures last year. However, in the 3 years combined before that, he only had 7.5 sacks and 67 pressures. Now, it is worth mentioning he was a UDFA, so he didn't play a lot of snaps early on in his career. He's had to earn all that. He's definitely become a much better player, and that probably speaks to his work ethic. But let's dive in here and talk a little bit more about Bryce Huff. As we do that, if this is your first time joining us on a Tuesday night show, welcome into Birds of the Roundtable. We do this show live every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Normally, we're also joined by David. But be sure you're following all of these guys on Twitter. Ryan is at Philly Sports PSA. Dibes is at Mr. Crockpot. Go give David a follow too. He is at PHL Eagle News. We've got stuff coming out all the time, but every Tuesday night we sit around and we talk birds. So we've all got a lot of side projects. This is kind of our collaborative baby together. But Ryan, talk to me about Bryce Huff. What was your initial reaction when that news broke?
Yeah, I thought this was a great signing. This is an up and coming kid who, did a lot with a little last year with the Jets. And, a lot of people are like, wondering, when he finally gets some starting minutes, will he be able to reproduce that? And I think he will, honestly. I think the Jets just honestly had a really good defensive front line, and it was a little bit of a logjam. So he did a great job of being efficient and doing what he needed to do while he was in there. And I think the fact that this should tell you a lot, the fact that they are in trade talks with, whether it be Sweat, whether it be Reddick, and they brought this guy in to be the essential replacement for whomever they end up trading or not being on the team. So, listen, I didn't know a lot about this kid and Huff, and I think I went back and I saw some highlights and watched the game against us and realized, oh, that was the guy that tortured us a little bit during
our 1.5 sacks against Philly.
Yeah. So, listen, I like what this kid brings. He's young. I honestly feel like he's just, when you watch him, he's very fluid. He's very smooth when he's out there.
He's bendy.
Yeah, he's real bendy, man. He really seems like he just gets around people any way he wants. And honestly, I think Eagles fans are really going to like him. I think it's very much kind of the way Sweat came, to be, where, originally he didn't really get a lot of snaps, but he was very efficient. He got to the quarterback and again, that first year that Sweat was able to get, full playing time, he took advantage of it. And I think Huff will be that kind of guy. And also contract wise, it reminds me a lot of Reddick. They signed Reddick, and he has more than outplayed his contract with us with the Eagles, and I think the same with Huff when he comes here and unleashes onto the NFC East.
All right, Dibes, thoughts on the Bryce Huff signing?
I agree with everything Ryan just said. When the news broke, I was at work, and my coworker, who is also a diehard Jets fan, I don't watch a lot of Jets games. I'll be the first one to admit. I watched the Eagles-Jets game, of course, but I was like, "What are your thoughts on Bryce Huff?" And he walks in the office. He was like, "What do you mean? He's a beast." And I broke the news to him, and he was just flipping tables because, according to him, he was a guy that made a play when the Jets always needed to make a play. For me, when I look at Bryce Huff, I mean, you can talk about the numbers, but the numbers I get really excited about, and the area the Eagles got destroyed last year on defense was third down. Bryce Huff, his best pressure percentage was on third down. It was he had a pressure percentage of 24.7% on third down. His get off is sixth fastest among defensive linemen in 2023. This guy is going to fit. Again, run defense, kind of concerned, but I'm not going to nitpick this move. I love the fact that they're bringing in a guy that can get this Eagles defense off the field in those third and longs, third and manageables, make a big play. This Eagles defense needs to get hungry again, start hitting people, get off the field, make plays. That pass rush needs to get home. And I think Bryce Huff, I honestly, I truly believe how he saw those third down numbers and said, yep, for one of many numbers to bring in Bryce Huff. And if the Eagles can get respectable on third downs, third and longs, we're in good shape, boys.
Yeah. The run defense thing is something that we're going to have to think about. He's a light player at 255 pounds. Now that's heavier than Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick's 240, Josh Sweat's 265. he's not very good against the run. And that's okay. You can play with light edges that aren't good against the run. But you can't play with light edges that aren't good against the run while playing with light boxes and bad linebackers. Like, generally, you're going to need at least one, maybe two of those things. You need good run defending edges if you want to have bad linebackers and light boxes, or you need good linebackers and a safety in the box, or you're going to have to figure something out there. And so we'll see how that plays out. But he is so good as a pass rusher in limited reps, and we'll see. You know, he's got to be able to extend that over volume. And this is not the same thing as, you know, people are looking at Sweat's regression this year, saying he couldn't sustain it over volume. Well, Sweat played 600 snaps in 2022 and had a really good year. And he fell off this year. I really don't think it was due to playing time so much as the defense being a total disaster. But the first thing that you will notice if you look at Bryce Young, I keep saying Bryce Huff play, is that he has elite get off at the line of scrimmage. He's got great snap timing. He gets across the line fast. Per Next Gen Stats, he had the 6th fastest get off among all defensive linemen in 2023. If you don't know who Brandon Thorne is, go check him out on Twitter. He's like the resident guru for offensive and defensive line play. And he created a metric called true pressure rate, or true pressure score and true sack score. And he charts every pressure, every sack, and he either makes them low quality, high quality, or rare high quality. You know, beating a tight end would be low quality. Beating Lane Johnson's probably going to be a rare high quality. And so he looks at those. But in 2023, Bryce Huff was 5th in snaps per high quality pressure at 11.3. The only 4 guys ahead of him were Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, Dexter Lawrence, and Chris Jones. Those are good names to be, you know, around. Nick Bosa, he was tied with basically for 5th. Again, also worth noting, Hassan Reddick in the last 3 years has not been charted with a high quality pressure from Brandon Thorne. So he's a good player. He's got a lot of pass rush moves he can chain together well, good pass rush plans. The questions are about volume and about run defense. And so, you know, that's what we wait on. That's what we've got to wait to see.
Yes.
Marshawn Lynch says Tobias has 0 points at halftime. I want to just throw this out there that more frustrating. James Bradbury won the voting poll by a landslide, 68%. People questioning that now? I don't know.
Oh wow, that's too.
Tobias Harris stinks.
Yeah. Well, where's Mitch when we need him to do this at all?
Kai Berry says Simmons or Curl. Who do you prefer for the money? Absolutely Simmons. Curl's in the box safety. I think Simmons is a guy that would fit really well, better with the Eagles. Any thoughts, guys, on Simmons or Curl?
Simmons, 100% Simmons. The fact that he, you know, has the experience with Vic Fangio, the fact that we've been wanting this guy for many years already. I think Eagles fans are absolutely going to fall in love with him if he comes here. You know, in that room with CJ and with Reed Blankenship. So yeah, I'll take him all day.
But by the way, Shane, this guy is also a guy from Oklahoma here, man.
Hello.
Hey. We don't run into Eagles fans in Oklahoma very often.
No, it's awesome.
It's all dirty Cowboys fans.
It's just the two of you.
I know that there's a couple. The owner of our local pizza place here in town is an Eagles fan. We've talked about doing a watch party there sometime.
Nice.
But yeah, it is pretty rare. We're surrounded by Chiefs and I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted watching Bryce Huff here. We're surrounded by Chiefs and Cowboys fans.
Are these all his snaps against the Birds?
No. I was just looking at some of Brandon Thorne's charting. He's got some clips out, but that's all he's got that I see right away.
Any thoughts on what Josh Sweat's trade value might be? And I mean, it looks like it's likely going to go down at some point soon.
Yeah.
I would have said before this whole thing started that I would have expected a top 40 pick for Sweat. But then Brian Burns gets traded for a second-round pick, and I think that really tanks the market. And now with reports coming out that there's a chance the Eagles would cut Sweat, it makes me think there's some big internal concern about the knees. So if you remember, Sweat came out. He went in the 4th round. He was probably first-round talent, but there were pretty big concerns about degenerative knee issues. And maybe there's something going on with that. I don't know, but it's rare for a player to have progressed the way that Sweat did, especially as a trench player, and not get paid. And so if the Eagles are like seriously going to move on from him, it makes you think there's something going on. At this point, I don't have any idea what to expect in terms of trade value.
Yeah. What linebacker or linebackers would you guys like? This one's easy.
All of them. All of them. Can I say that? I'll draft all of them. I will sign all of them. I just want anyone. I literally was talking to my buddy who I went to high school with. He's one of my best friends. He played linebacker for UMass. And I was like, dude, at this point, I'll take you and your broken ass knees. He's 43 years old. And I was like, dude, I'll take you right now. I mean, at this point, who cares, right? Like, somebody's better than nobody.
There's really like nobody left. Jordan Brooks was the guy that I wanted.
Yeah. Tell me about it, Shane. I love Jordan Brooks.
Jerome Baker. I mean, Jerome Baker is the name that I would look at. He played with Vic Fangio last year. He played next to a guy in David Long that's like a perfect physical profile match for Nakobe Dean. So you could try to rule that out. But at the end of the day, I think Eagles fans need to brace themselves for a linebacker to be pretty bad again next year. There's been a lot of people saying Devin White. Guys, Devin White's not a good football player. Devin White's highest PFF grade, which again is not everything. His highest PFF grade is a 51, and that was his rookie year. He hasn't been above a 50 since. Like, he can't cover. He's terrible against the run. He's just fast. Like, he's a good Madden player. And I don't know if that's tainting people's views, but he is just not a good football player.
I mean, yeah.
I try.
That said, take him. I mean, nobody the Eagles have is a good linebacker either, so you might as well give it a shot.
Right. You have unproven Nakobe Dean, and then you have no one's ever heard of Van Simmeren. So it's not great.
I would rather start Zach Cunningham than Devin White next year.
I'm really high on the Eagles free agency so far, but like, it's also making me desperate for a linebacker in the draft. What would be your reaction if you took Edgerrin Cooper at number 22 and just say, we're not going to risk him possibly missing out on the number 1 linebacker in this draft? Any thoughts?
I'm fine with it. Do it, Howie. I would hate it. I'm so desperate. I'm so desperate for a linebacker. I wouldn't even care. I'm so desperate for one. Like, I have been clamoring for this for 30 years.
I'm going to be a hot mess. I'm going to be a hot mess on draft night, boys.
Yeah.
If he's sitting there and we pass him and we have to wait from 22 to 53, I think, or something?
50 and 53.
Well, we have to wait a whole day. We have to wait a whole day.
Pennsylvania for me to survive that stretch.
I've already taken off of work those whole days because I am going to be a mess. You're 100% right.
Oh, I'm definitely taking off those days too, Brian, for sure. There's not enough alcohol in the state of Pennsylvania. Let me survive that pick 22 to 50 stretch where the Eagles should move up and select Edgerrin Cooper.
See, you're worried about that, and rightfully so. If he is on the board and we don't take him at 50, that's going to be the longest half an hour of my life from 50. I'm going to pace. I'm going to freak out. I'm probably going to drink about 8 beers in that and
time. Then the Cowboys are going to trade up to 52 and take him just to spite the Eagles.
Oh my God.
Tables would
flip. Say that, man. It's too soon.
You can't put that into the universe, my friend. Come on.
All right, you guys keep the comments rolling
Yes,
here.
thank
We
you,
got
guys.
Alex on YouTube said that White's a good blitzer, but Nakobe has that covered, if anything, if he can stay healthy.
Seamus, got it.
Yeah, Andrew says the Eagles don't look like they'll be good against the run next year. We'll see. I mean, there's definitely something's got to give, like we talked about earlier. You can't be light on the edge, have bad linebackers, and play light boxes. So we'll see what Vic can scheme up there.
This
Alex
is
says
100%. I've been on this train for weeks now. Team trade back for the Philadelphia Eagles. I love this situation. We're actually going to be talking about this on BGN right after this, because like basically all my guys I'm talking about tonight will be guys you trade back for in that like top of second round kind of guys. But I love this idea, Alex. That the Eagles dominating on day 2 is the strength of this draft. Safeties, linebackers, wide receivers. It's loaded with guys that I think can make a real impact.
Yes. There are, unfortunately, I think this is truly, like, obviously I've been very involved in the draft, but this is truly the first year that I feel like I jumped in 2 feet, did not care. And I have unfortunately fallen in love with even more people than I normally do. And I feel like my heart might not be able to take it. And when none of them get drafted by the Eagles here, and there's about 15 guys that I'm like, man, I love that guy. He's going to this team, and I'm not gonna be well. Nope.
I do that with safeties every single year, man. Justin Reed, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back in his draft.
Yeah.
I was a big Jeremy Chin guy. I was a huge Javon Holland guy.
Yes.
It happens to me every year. It's not happening so far this year, though. Tyler Dubin, maybe, but
same with linebackers. I do it every year. I pinpoint 1 or 2 that I'm like, man, those guys are going to be stud. And honestly, normally I'm pretty right. I'm not trying even to brag, but it's not like we ever target them. So it's, I get myself all worked up for no damn reason.
Kai Berry says if we trade back, we won't be able to take our typical offensive tackle in the first. Oh, there's going to be an offensive tackle available.
It is a deep class for offensive tackles.
I would also not be very well, and I would not handle that very well. Drafting an offensive tackle with our pick at 22. I'm not saying that person or that young man might not be amazing, but I just absolutely would not be able to handle that right.
So one of my favorite shows that we did on this program was a mock draft where we all had different themes for our mock draft, and my mock draft was Howie is on crack. And what I did was the Eagles traded up to like pick number 11, and all the main guys were there. Quinyon Mitchell to Terry and Arnold to Leatu Latu. And think of us Eagles fans on draft night drinking beers, about to flip out. We're going to get a really impactful guy for the defense. And sure enough, Howie drafts J.C. Latham to the Philadelphia Eagles. Could you imagine? That's the most Howie thing ever.
Yeah. I keep if I scratched my eye today, so if I am squinting a bunch, my eye just randomly starts watering where I can't see out of it. But I was questionable, and I told the team doctor, I was like, no, we're doing the podcast. The people need to hear us talk about Bryce Huff. People need to hear us somehow talk about linebackers in the draft on a free agency podcast. So I'm not crying because we didn't sign Cam Curl. My eye just has a mind of its own right now. So, anyways, man, you guys keep these comments coming. Do we want to touch on the Eagles did make a few other moves, and we'll circle back here. But so the 2 other moves that I'm aware of, unless something's broken while we were on air, they signed wide receiver Devontae Parker to a 1-year deal. It's $4.7 million, but the Eagles only are responsible for $1.2 million of it. Former first-round pick, he never lived up to that billing. In 2019, he had it's actually a 1,200-yard season. he hasn't done much since. He's 6'3". He's got 4.45 speed, so he's big. He's fast enough. Warren Sharp had the tweet that went out showing that he is last in next gen stats player tracking data for separation in each of the last 4 years. In my mind, Devontae Parker is we only have 3 wide receivers on our roster right now. Now we have 4. I don't think he's guaranteed wide receiver 3 or even wide receiver 4, but I'm glad to see that they added someone there. Does anybody have thoughts or takes on Devontae Parker?
Yeah,
or Jacoby Parker or whatever Dibes called him.
Yeah, right. Exactly. No, listen, I think when you look at what we've had, the Quez Watkins of the world, the Zacchaeuses of the world, the Greg freaking Wards of the world, is he an upgrade over that? Yes. Would I prefer him to be our wide receiver 4? Yes. Would I love to get a young wide receiver in the draft in the second round, maybe, third round? Absolutely. And that I'm fine with. If Parker comes into your year as your wide receiver 4, great. I'm good with that. And even if he's 3, is he better than Quez Watkins? Yes. So there you go. You theoretically upgraded. Would I like better?
You should be drafting a wide receiver on day 2 in every single draft. What wide receivers are doing right now is insane. Darnell Mooney, 3 years, $39 million, $13 million a year for a guy coming off of back-to-back 400-yard seasons.
Right.
Gabe Davis, I forget, his contract was about the same. And Gabe Davis is fine, but he's not $13 million fine.
He had
just some of these contracts.
He had one good playoff game. He had a couple touchdowns, and that's basically what he's been living off of. It's crazy.
Yeah. 3 years, $39 million for Gabe Davis too. He's never had an 850-yard season despite playing with the second best quarterback in the NFL. You should be drafting wide receivers, churn wide receivers on day 2 of the draft. And I really want the Eagles to take one this year because, again, that's a spot where the draft is deep.
It's crazy deep, Shane. And I could probably name 20 wide receivers in this draft that I'd rather have than
Devontae
Parker. He only played 80 snaps in the slot last year. What's his role on this team? He doesn't interest me whatsoever. They're only paying him a little over $1 million. He's meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. It's like the Ricky Vaughn signing from yesterday. Nobody cares.
Ricky Vaughn.
Here's a question coming in on Twitter. Who's your favorite cornerback in the draft? Dibes, who's your favorite? Is it Arnold?
Oh, it's without question Terrion Arnold. Now that was put into question a little bit after my man Quinyon Mitchell has been dominating the Senior Bowl, dominating the Combine. But for me, the tape is everything. And Terrion Arnold is just a monster. He's physical. He can play against the run. He's a great tackler. He's a big-time playmaker. He gets his hands involved. He's always deflecting passes. For me, Terrion Arnold is the premier cornerback in this draft. I have him as a top 10 pick. But Quinyon Mitchell is not that far behind, man. His rise has been meteoric in the past month or so. It's 1A and 1B. After that, it's a little interesting. I think Nate Wiggins is a terrific cornerback, great athlete, but he doesn't tackle. He doesn't defend the run worth a lick. So if you're looking for the top 2 corners, it's Mitchell and it's Terrion Arnold because they're more well-rounded. Arnold is a guy that you can say, hey, CeeDee Lamb, you're done for today because we have Nate Wiggins and you're done. But he's not going to give you anything else. And then there are other guys like Kool-Aid McKinstry. There are other guys that I like a lot. But those are the top 2.
Yeah, Mitchell's probably going to end up being – I haven't finalized my stuff yet, but I'm pretty sure Mitchell's going to end up being my CB1.
Oh, cool. Wow. Yeah, I have it with Dibes. I have Arnold 1, and I have Mitchell 2. And I feel like Wiggins is starting to slide. Kool-Aid's starting to slide a bit. We'll see how it ends up. But Yeah, hey, listen, I'd be okay with that. I'd be a lot more okay with a cornerback than an offensive tackle. Again, you can only start one offensive tackle, and that dude is going to be playing the entire game hopefully every game. With corner, you can throw people in, you can get them some reps. You need a bunch of corners. You only need one right tackle. So
yeah, Mitchell's a dog, man. He's a dog. He's really good. Rufus loves Kool-Aid McKinstry. DeJean, we'd even talk about. I still think he's more of a safety, kind of like that slot defender than outside corner. That's just me. Missouri cornerback has some nastiness to his game. Ennis Rakestraw, is that him? Off the cuff, I think that's him. He's good. He's more of a round 2 guy, but he's very solid.
He's there at 50. That's a great pick right there too. So,
Ryan, I got to show you this because I tweeted it today when Patrick Queen signed with the Steelers, and you'll appreciate this.
Just that one. I knew Patrick Queen was the pipe dream for me. I get that. It doesn't mean that it didn't hurt when he signed.
It was never going to happen, Ryan.
I know it was never going to happen. Obviously, nothing's happening. They're not signing any damn linebackers. Come on.
My favorite is that the first response, somebody said, "We don't need any socialists here." And I replied and said that I would like for the NFL to redistribute the linebacker wealth across the league. I think that's a good idea. I'm all in favor of it.
Just the linebackers.
Just the linebackers. Maybe the safeties too.
Well, it depends on how he can bring in Simmons. And yeah, I'm down for that too.
AJ said, did we pick up a center from the States? That meant Hennessy, correct?
Yeah, it's Falcons, though.
Atlanta,
yeah. Yep. Rudy Poo says, I like the nickel from Michigan. Mike Sanders is an absolute monster. He's been one of my favorite corners.
He's rising.
His rise went from day 3 to like top of day 2. Yeah. That's how far he's come. He's right there with Kamari Lassiter in terms of just elite nickel defender in this draft, man. Just elite athleticism. Their 3 cone drills were off the charts, like all-time great.
I need my guy Max Melton to start getting some of that love and flying up boards too.
Yeah, I thought he had a really good scouting combine. So yeah, he was.
I like this. Rufus says Wiggins is all-time. Wow. What was his nickname? Crocodile something, alligator arms.
Alligator arms. Yeah, alligator arms, man. I remember that. Yeah, do you remember his voice too? He had like the strangest voice when he would come in. Hickster was an oddity, man. Where we came from.
All right. Well, I think there's one free agent signing we didn't mention yet, so let's mention him for completion. It was linebacker Zach Braun, another 1-year deal, unknown contract. He was a 3rd-round pick. He came from the Saints. That's probably the Saints.
Yeah, and it's Zach Bond.
Bond.
Yeah, that's like the 700th time that somebody's got his name right. Mostly times.
Last night, all I could think of, like, I'm a big Seinfeld fan, so all I could think about was Lloyd Braun from Seinfeld, and George Costanza and his dad, and you could never compete with Lloyd Braun. Like, that's all I thought about, and I think I called him Lloyd Braun about 20 times last night.
I typed an R in his last name that I guess doesn't go there.
No, yeah, it's okay. I feel like everyone, even his mother, probably does it. So I will say real quick.
I talked about this last night, and I literally Googled this. It was Hassan Reddick was his player.
Wisconsin, yeah. CJ Gardner-Johnson did tweet. He says, I do owe the fans of Philly an apology.
Oh, wow.
Regardless, this is an amazing place, and we had some memories together. Let's go get us one. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Nothing will beat Saquon Barkley's.
Him and Tiki Barber. And then I love Barry Sanders comes on top and goes, congratulations, get your thing, man. I get it. It's a business. Like, beautiful. The whole situation is beautiful. These guys are already endearing themselves with Philly fans. Gardner-Johnson, anybody who had a problem with him, guess what? That solves everything. You admit it. That's all. That's all we need. So you're good. Barkley's great. Let's freaking go.
Yeah, that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson tweet is that's when you go through a breakup and you talk trash about your ex to anybody that'll listen, and then you end up getting back together. That's that tour you're on right now.
That's when you say that right before the wedding, right?
Yeah. Oh. All right. Well, I think that about covers free agency so far. There's still obviously a lot of targets out there. Eagles, I'm sure, are not done making moves, and so we'll continue to track it. We'll continue to tweet about it, so make sure you're following us all on Twitter. I'm at Shane Half NFL. Dibes is at Mr. Crockpot. Ryan is at Philly Sports PSA, and then our David is not here tonight, but he's at PHL Eagle News. So we'll continue to tweet about it. We will be back next Tuesday live at 8 o'clock, hopefully having David with us as well. And we'll be live every Tuesday at 8 o'clock going through the off season. We'll come up with some fun stuff to do. So if you guys have topics that you want it, we've done like obviously after the draft when you're out of things to talk about. We've done all-time Eagles fantasy football drafts, drafted NFL blitz teams. So 7-on-7, you got to play both ways. We've done all kinds of stuff.
NFC East, all greats. Like,
yeah.
We've done it all.
Yeah. So you got any ideas, something you want to hear us talk about?
And Seamus,
hit us up on Twitter. Give us some of those ideas. We'll probably stick them on the back burner till after the draft, but we'll have a lot of fun with this show throughout the off season. If this was your first time joining the show, like I said, we go live every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. So be sure you join us next week. We'll talk about whatever's happened between now and then. Hopefully for Ryan's sake, for his sanity. It's a linebacker. Maybe we get a safety. Ooh. That'd be great too. But regardless, we'll be here breaking it down, hanging out with you guys. Your comments that you drop make this show a lot more fun. Easy. We love to interact with you guys. So, like I said, we'll see you guys next Tuesday. But before we get out of here, Dibes, Ryan, myself, we all host our own shows and things too. This is kind of a cross collaboration. So Dibes, tell the people where they can find you, where your content's at, and what you've got going on.
You can follow me on X, of course, at Mr. Crockpot. Monday nights with my man Ryan down there, we do Party on Broad, a lot of more Eagles content, top topics, reactions, that kind of stuff. Last night we did a show. It was a ton of fun. Same stuff, talking free agency. Be sure to check that out on BGN. I'll be dropping my top slot receivers video. It's time to look at some slot receivers. And it's a really good list. There's a lot of really good slot receivers in this draft. That'll be coming out this week. I am done putting out NFL draft scouting reports, individual player scouting reports. I've covered so many, and I need to stop. I'm well into day 3. We are well into day 3, guys, and I don't have it in me anymore. But guys, I really liked. I think I covered them all, and there's going to be a lot more videos and nickel corners. I'm going to do more specific videos that will be like that, like slot receivers to slot corners to boomer bust to different things like that. I'll start compiling some things. But anyway, thank you everyone for watching. Comments were awesome tonight as always. Over 1,500 viewers on here, by far the most we've ever had. Just want to say thank you, Shane's Twitter. You're a beautiful thing.
We should have NFL opening day of free agency like once a week. It draws big viewership. If you can find a player in the draft that Dibes hasn't done a scouting report for, let me rephrase that, because you could think of a player in your head and then go to Dibes' Twitter account, search their name, see if he doesn't have a scouting report for them. If you can think of one off the top of your head without Googling that he doesn't have a report for, you're a true sicko, because he's been pumping out these things like crazy. But
we're
Ryan,
I think we're almost at like 200.
Yeah, easily. Yeah. I absolutely think you could just do your own 200 board with just your scouting reports. Honestly,
Dibes has put out scouting reports for guys that will be UDFAs. 100%. So, all right, Ryan, tell the people what you've got going on. Plug your stuff.
Yeah, you obviously can follow me right here on X, Twitter, whatever the kids are calling it, at Philly Sports PSA. Throughout the week, Monday, 6 o'clock, I have a show, football smack talk show. Obviously, Jives mentioned. Monday at 9, Party on Broad. Tonight, to every Tuesday at 8 o'clock is the best show of the week, Birds of the Roundtable. And I'm actually guest hosting with Mitch Kofsky, the infamous Mitch, on his podcast, Fly Like an Eagles podcast, Thursday at 5. Sorry, I don't even know what day it is. But yes, I also run Philly Sports Alliance, have a couple other shows there too. You can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on all the others. So, but make sure, more importantly, Edge of Philly Sports, make sure that you are locked into the YouTube. Smash the like button and the follow, whatever the buttons tell you on YouTube. I don't know what they are. But make sure you also put on those automatic notifications so that every single time that we go live, you are right there with us. That's how most of the people here are joining us. That's how we've had so many people in the chat. So we appreciate it. Over 1,550 people watching us live. Cannot thank you guys enough. This is exactly why we do this. So hats off to you guys, and go Birds.
All right. Before we get out of here, Dibes, we're putting you to the test.
Oh,
do you have Drake Stoops?
I have not. I've done Billy Bowman. I have not done Drake Stoops.
What about Luke McCaffrey?
God damn it. Guys, stop it. No,
to be fair, we'll give you that one.
It looks like you're not done.
Rufus said McCaffrey's little brother, so he didn't know his name off the top of his head. That one doesn't count.
I've done as much as I can. I've literally been doing it since May of last year. Like literally, May. I can't do it anymore.
It is the best. If you just want to knock it out, I'm telling you, just a whole weekend, just watch them all. Get yourself used to these people. And by the time the draft comes, you'll actually know who all these players are. It's the absolute best way to get involved with the draft. I'm telling you, do it.
All right. You can follow me on Twitter and YouTube at ShaneHalfNFL. My weekly show, Chalk Talk, is currently doubling as the BGN draft show. But once we get back through the draft, we'll be putting out draft grades in season. We cover every single NFL game every week. So whether you're an Eagles fan or not, you'll hear us talking about your team. That's me with my co-host Mark Henry Jr. Check us all out on Twitter, all our shows. Good stuff. Thank you guys for joining, and we will catch you next week for another episode where we hopefully talk about linebacker signings of Birds of the Roundtable. Go Birds.